my fiancé Mark, and I were so excited. We had just finished picking out our dream wedding venue. It was a beautiful, rustic barn with twinkling lights and a huge dance floor. We'd been saving for over a year, and my dad had promised to match our savings to help us have the wedding we always wanted. The deposit was due next week, and we were about to make the final payment. Life felt perfect. That evening, we went over to my parents' house for our usual Sunday dinner. My younger sister, Chloe, was there too, looking unusually smug. We were all sitting around the dinner table when my dad cleared his throat. "Kids," he started, "I have an announcement to make." Mark and I exchanged a happy glance, thinking he was about to talk about the wedding funds. But then he looked at Chloe. "Not me. Your sister has some wonderful news. She's starting her own online boutique, and to support her dream, I've decided to give her the money I had set aside." The room went silent. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. I stared at my dad, completely stunned. What what money?" I stammered, even though I knew exactly what he meant. Mark's hand, which had been resting on my leg, went completely still. "The wedding money," my dad said, avoiding my eyes. "Chloe needs it more right now. It's a business investment. A wedding is just a party, but a business can set her up for life." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I looked at Chloe, who was now beaming. "Isn't it great?" she chirped. "I'm going to be a business owner." I turned to my mum, hoping for support, but she just gave a weak, apologetic shrug. She never stood up to my dad. All my life, it had been like this. Chloe was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Her every whim was catered to, while I was always expected to be the responsible, understanding one. Mark finally spoke, his voice tight. "Sir, with all due respect, you promised that money to us. We've made plans based on that promise. The deposit for our venue is due in a few days." My dad waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, you two are smart. You'll figure it out. Just have a smaller wedding. It's the marriage that counts, not the party, right?" He said it with a smile, as if he was teaching us a valuable life lesson. Tears welled up in my eyes. It wasn't just about the money. It was the blatant favoritism, the complete disregard for my feelings and for a promise he had made. I felt so humiliated, especially in front of Mark. I pushed my chair back and stood up. I can't do this right now." I grabbed my purse and walked out, not even waiting to see if Mark was following. He was right behind me, of course. The car ride home was silent and heavy. When we got inside our apartment, I just collapsed onto the sofa and sobbed. Mark sat beside me, wrapping his arms around me. He didn't say anything for a long time, just let me cry. Finally, he said, "We don't need his money. We'll figure this out. We can postpone the wedding, save up again. It's you and me. That's what matters." His words were comforting, but the anger was bubbling up inside me. Postpone. Why should we have to put our lives on hold? because my dad decided to break a promise and my sister was, once again, the center of the universe. That night, I barely slept. My mind was racing. The humiliation, the years of being second best. It all came crashing down. The next day, Mark and I called the venue. We explained the situation, and they were surprisingly understanding. They agreed to hold our date for 2 more weeks without the deposit, giving us a little time to figure things out. Mark suggested taking out a loan, but I hated that idea. Starting our marriage in debt because of my family's drama felt wrong. That's when I remembered something I had buried deep down because it was a painful memory. A few years ago, my grandmother passed away. She had left me a significant inheritance in her will, a portfolio of stocks. She had always seen me, always believed in me, but at the time, my dad had convinced me to let him manage it. He said I was too young and inexperienced to handle it, that he would invest it wisely for my future, for something important, like a house or a wedding. I had trusted him and signed the papers, giving him control. I hadn't thought about it in years. A cold realization washed over me. "Mark," I said, my voice trembling with a new kind of energy. "I think I know where our wedding money is." I spent the rest of the day digging through old files until I found it, the paperwork for the inheritance, with the account numbers and details of the portfolio. The next morning, I made an appointment with a financial advisor. Mark came with me. When the advisor pulled up the account, my jaw dropped. My dad hadn't just managed it. He had been using the dividends for years. But the principal amount, the stocks themselves, were still there, and they had grown a lot. It was worth far more than the wedding money my dad had promised us. According to the legal documents, I could reclaim full control of the account at any time now that I was over 25. A plan started to form in my mind, a plan for justice. Not just for the wedding money, but for every time I was made to feel less than. The next Sunday, Mark and I went to my parents' house for dinner again. I was calm. I had spent the week making arrangements. Chloe was there, going on and on about the designer inventory she was ordering for her boutique. My dad was in a great mood. "See," he said, gesturing to me. "I knew you'd understand. It's all for the best." I waited until everyone was seated. Then I placed a folder on the table. "Dad," I began, my voice steady. "I had a very interesting meeting with a financial advisor this week. We were talking about my inheritance from Grandma." The color drained from my dad's face. Chloe stopped talking about her boutique and stared at me. My mum looked nervous. "You remember, right?" I continued, opening the folder to show the statements. "The portfolio you've been managing for me. It turns out it's done quite well. It's more than enough to pay for the wedding, my dream wedding, actually. So Mark and I won't need your help after all." I paused, letting the information sink in. "In fact," I said, looking directly at my dad, "I've already started the process of transferring the entire account back into my name. It should be finalized by tomorrow. The dividends you've been enjoying will, of course, stop." My dad was speechless. He just gaped at me. Then I turned to Chloe. And Chloe, I'm so sorry to hear your business funding has fallen through. But don't worry. I gave her my sweetest, most insincere smile. Like Dad said, it's the marriage that counts, not the party. And in your case, it's the dream that counts, not the funding, right? I'm sure you're smart. You'll figure it out. I repeated my dad's words back to them, verbatim. The silence was deafening. Chloe looked like she was about to cry. My dad finally found his voice. You can't do that. That money, ... I was managing it for the family. No, Dad, I said, standing up. You were managing my money for benefit, and Grandma left it to me. Not to the family, not to you, not to Chloe. Mark stood up with me, his hand on my back. He looked so proud. We're having our wedding, I announced to the room. The one we wanted, the one we planned. And we're paying for it ourselves. With my money, we turned and walked out, leaving them all sitting there in stunned silence. As we closed the door behind us, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the second best daughter. I felt like a queen. Our wedding was incredible. Everything we dreamed of and more. We paid for it all ourselves, and it felt so empowering. My parents and sister did come, but they were subdued. The family dynamic had shifted forever. My dad couldn't look me in the eye, and Chloe barely spoke a word. They knew they had lost control, but I hadn't just won back my money. I had won back my self-respect, and standing there next to my amazing husband, I knew this was just the beginning of a life where I would never let anyone make me feel second best again. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever felt overlooked, remember your worth and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.